Thank you, Professor George. So you all are taking this value investing course. So the first thing that will come to mind is, does it really work? And I've been doing this since 1981. It's been over close to 37 years, 36 years or 37 years. And I can tell you that it really works. So the key thing is valuation. So I've invested, let's say, in all over the world, in Japan, in Canada, United States, Britain, Australia, and everywhere that I have practiced this, it works. But the key thing is valuation. If you're very accurate in your valuation and you buy them cheap, it has worked in almost all countries. So let me show you my record. I'm just showing this from December 31st, 1986. And you can see how well it has worked in spite of some years where the fund has done badly. But on a net basis, it has worked out quite well. So these numbers are from December 31st, 1986. So I'm just taking $10,000. And end of December 31st, 2015, it is worth 212,000. So roughly like 20 times your money. If I had used numbers from 1981 at the time I started, right now we will be up around 55 times your money. And we have done this in spite of some years when we were down versus when the market was up. So you can take this year, for example, take the year 1999. In 1998, we are showing our valuation was like 59,187, and it went down to 53,489. So we were down like roughly 11%, but the market at that time was up close to 20%. And so there was a reason why we were underperforming. There were periods where you are going to underperform, but at that time you need your greatest conviction. If you're right on your valuation, it will work out well long term. So even at that time when we were underperforming it, it looks like bad for that year. But if you look at it over that period, look at year 2000, 2001, 2002, as valuation caught up with the market, we went and did better than the market. So the thing I want to emphasize in this class is that work hard on your valuation and have strength in your conviction. And eventually, if your valuation is right, it will work out fine. And this rate of return that we have shown is much higher than what the market has given. We have been beating the market by roughly 1 to 2 percentage points, even in spite of taking all expenses, plus most of the period, at least 75% of the time, we had 30% cash. So I'm going to end that and start Q&A.
Francis, how important is to train your customers, to educate them, I guess?
Yeah, it is. Sometimes you don't want to be like held ransom by your unit holders, by your shareholders that are in your fund. So in my letters that I write, I am always kind of, even when I'm doing well, I have a bearish tone. And I always say sometimes, but let me show you the next slide. So on this slide here, just look on the bottom paragraph. And here what I'm saying is that, and normally you don't see that in letters of the other managers, but in my letters I would stress it every like 4 or 5 years. I would put that language there.
Have you ever fired a customer? Have you ever fired a customer, a client?
Yeah, sometimes they would leave.
Did you ask anybody to leave?
No, no, I don't say leave, but I would say there are other better funds around, but maybe it's more suitable for you, and so I would use a more softer language. And even in this language, it's very strong. I tell them straight up front, and there are some years where you could lose 40% or more of your investment, and if you do lose that, can you sleep at night? And if you can sleep at night, then you can come with me.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, obviously this week the focus has been heavily on valuation. Would you mind walking us through if you came across an idea you thought was interesting? Like this looks cheap, it looks interesting to me. Can you walk us through what your personal process is on how you go about evaluating it from like the initial look to how you think about valuation and kind of how you reach an investment decision?
You can do it on this company that you're working on with Professor George, Lazy Boy.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were separated, but I don't know if you were on that group working on Lazy Boy.
Yeah, we'll be working. So how would if you were doing it?
So if I were doing it like 2008, it was selling at 10% of revenue, and something like the normalized earning power of something like 4 times earnings. But you have to go through that period. Will this company survive? This is a brand name, Lazy Boy's brand name. And did not have that much debt, like 50 million or so. They can overcome it. They're going through some short-term sectoral problems for the last 2 or 3 years. But if they come out of it, you're going to make big-time money. But I think if you had bought it at that time, at 10% of revenue, right now it's trading around 1 time revenue. You would have made a hell of a lot of money. But that is what we are looking for. Something like short-term problems, right? Short-term problems. And 2 years down the road, this thing will pass. The company will overcome that problem, and because they're having short-term problems, the company is cheap.
So do you focus more on earning power tax evaluation or more on asset replacement cost?
On asset base, you have to be careful. So you can go on asset base. Like I have a company called Sears. It has a lot of real estate, but operationally it's not doing well.
Yeah.
And in this one, there's a little bit of two-sided story. One side is they're losing money. The other side they have the assets. But on operationally, are they losing too much money? And are they eroding the value of the real estate? So there's a balancing point at some point. And I would prefer to have companies longer term. And since I'm more of a buy and hold, to go with companies that are stronger on the earning power. And there's a reason why. For example, like you can take Sears, like one of the companies I have that is asset based. The valuation is most probably stuck, doesn't move that much, and it's most probably going down slightly because of the losses. So if you say the value is let's say $40, 5 years down the road is still around 40, right? But if you take another company that's growing, has solid earning power, intrinsic value today, let's say you're doing it, it's $40, but 5 years down the road is 80. So you have a higher margin of safety. So even if you slightly overpay, it compensates for you as time goes by. Whereas with a company that's fixed asset value, you're stuck. And so there's something called opportunity cost, and you're losing that.
Francis, I remember around 2000, I think you and some other value investors, you were getting out of the furniture business.
Yes.
There was a company called Shermack, I think, and so why you were getting out of the furniture manufacturing business? And why would you consider Lazy Boy then more favorably if you're getting out of the furniture?
Yeah, so there's one area that we are kind of conscious about or sensitive about is bubbles in sectors and industries. If a lot of, there were periods, for example, even if you take in the 1990 period, a lot of retailing companies were there and they were shutting down. So there was a bubble there. But once all these big companies, big retailing companies, they go under, then the stronger ones survive. So same thing happened with the furniture companies. Year 2000 to 2004, there was surplus of these furniture companies. There were so many of them. But eventually they were closing down. Even Lazy Boy with a good brand name suffered in 2006, 2007. That's why you saw some of those losses. But once those companies closed, then the surviving ones, the stronger, the fitter ones, they survive and they do much better. Yes?
What's the best investment you ever made and why? And what's the biggest mistake you ever made and what did you learn from it?
But the best investments that I've made, like I've gone up like 10 times the money, are companies whose earning power are growing. And so if I buy something, let's say the earnings is $1, 5 years down the road is $5, and then you're buying at 4 times earnings, then that's how you get your $10.
When you made a bad investment, which is rare, it sounds like, what was the specific case where you made a bad investment? What did you learn from that experience?
So bad investments, by the way, it's not because the market is is kind of against you, or market is biased against you and wants you to fail. Each time that I made a mistake on investment is because my valuation was wrong. So I would say it's worth $100, whatever I do my methodology, and I'm buying it at $60. But a lot of times, my $100 is in reality 2 years down the road is only worth $20.
Where, in a specific example, where did it go wrong on your valuation? Was there one component that you made a mistake on, or two?
There's, let's say, you can take one example that you can relate to, since you all, the younger folks, is let's say newspaper companies. So I've been in Torstar and some of these newspaper companies, and I thought, the internet, would have an impact, but would have a slower impact. So the impact would be, let's say, over a 10-year period. But 2008 hit, and suddenly that impact that I thought was going to be 10 years happened in 1 or 2 years, and suddenly all that valuation that I saw in Torstar just evaporated. So things like that will happen. But there's one good thing about investments. I've got these returns, and you don't need to be right 100%. So you need to be right somewhere around 60%. At least 60% has to be a benchmark. If you're lower than that, you won't make it. But if you're around 60% and you don't avoid big losses on your errors, on your mistakes, you will do quite well as the market.
What is your buy margin of safety? 60%, and does it change if the business is a higher quality company?
Yeah, but, so it is kind of subjected. So I'm saying I'm buying at 100. If it is worth 100, I'm buying at 60. So you're trying to get a 40% discount. And that margin of safety is basically saying, I am a human being. I'm prone to making mistakes. I need a cushion. And so that's why I need that cushion. I am not like 100%.
But you don't change it, I guess, for different companies.
For utility and stable cash flow, you can pay a little bit more, like 65–70%. But it's important to have that cushion, and it is also important to have something like psychologically that you have a lot more companies that you can choose from, not just one company. So if you only have one company to choose from, then you're making an excuse. I just want to buy that company, even if the cushion is 20%. If I have 20 companies to choose from, then then that psychological factor is not there. Then I can go with my thing. I want a 40% discount. Yes.
How many companies do you own on average?
I'm somewhat a concentrator, so I like to own somewhere around 15 companies. And but there are some people who have done really well with the diversification, but that is not for me. But those guys who diversify they have done really well too. But they are more like a book, like a portfolio. Mine is I'm more like rifle shooting. I like to look at each individual company and buy them cheap. They're more like a book of, they're using more kind of a shotgun approach, right? So.
You said 15, 1.5?
15, 1.5.
So, Francis, you spoke about all the different countries that you've invested in.
Right.
How do you determine how you're going to allocate your time to explore potential opportunities in all these different countries?
What I do is I just look at, is that country cheap? And if it is cheap, I devote more time to it. So.
And how are you defining cheap for a country?
Let's say I'm selling at 10 times earnings or somewhere there. And then you're looking for, something like, something that, a catastrophe or something really bad news. For example, like there's a Brexit, so my attention will automatically go to Britain. Can I buy cheap? And even if I buy that same stock at the same price, there's a 10% devaluation on the pound sterling, so I'm getting 10% cheaper anyway. So I would just go there. But wherever there's danger and turmoil, I just go. And that tends to attract me.
What's your, do you have any macro or currency hedging? Do you do it, or if you don't, if not?
On currencies? You have to be kind of careful on currencies. For example, let's say you're going in Turkey, like Turkey is a trouble spot right now. So at one time, I think in 1961 or 1963, $1 was equal to 9 Turkey lira, right? And right now it's what, 40 to 1, that $1 is 40. But where you get your 40 is a devaluation of 1 million to 1. So you can make money on your return on local Turkey money, but when you convert it back to dollars, you haven't made anything. So there was a devaluation of 1 to 1 around 12 years ago.
So you hedge?
Oh, so if I'm going into some of these Turkey thing, I have to hedge.
How about macro?
And same thing like India, when I came to Canada in 1976, it was like $1 was equal to like 7 Indian rupees. And right now it's like 65 to 1.
So what's your thought process around exiting a position? You talked about like 40% margin of safety. What do you look at in terms of when hitting evaluation? What numbers do you look at?
Yeah, on companies that are good companies, solid companies, I may just go for a ride because earning power is growing, right? So every time you do your valuation, the intrinsic value is rising. But on companies that are like where the valuation is based on fixed assets, buildings, land, and all that, then I'll get around 80 cents, 90 cents. Because the valuation is not growing, so there's consequences of time value of money. Yeah.
When you've decided on an entry price, do you say start buying at say 10% above your entry price, or you will only buy at the entry price or below?
The entry price is sometimes because I'm a concentrator. I would say would I put 5% of the assets in the fund there? If I say no, I'm only comfortable with 2%. That would mean I'm still not comfortable with the valuation. So there's a kind of thing that you do your checks and balances on how you feel about it. So with me, I need to feel comfortable that I'm going to put at least 5%. And then I normally would, would average it down.
And they'll speak up a little bit so I can...
Are there any particular industries that your methodology tends to either bias towards or tend to exclude?
Oh, I tend to exclude. I would go with somewhat technology companies, and simply is because of the risk of obsolescence. I don't have any idea, what something will come up a few years down the road in terms of obsolescence. So I would avoid that, even if they are cheap. But I would sometimes buy into it if it is financially cheap. In other words, I have so much cash, and I'm buying it without cash value. But I'm not buying it based on this company is going to do really well, but down the road.
You mentioned to keep your losses small, and I've heard a lot of really smart investors say to make sure their losses don't, or the position doesn't kind of get away from you. But practically, what I've run into is the market is valuing a position a lot lower than what I paid, and my inclination is to want to cut my loss, but intuitively I'm compelled to want to buy more. Because I think it's just the market mispricing the company. So I'm not sure if it's kind of
So the question you're raising is really good, and it has practical importance and how you apply it. It's psychological. You put in the money there, so it's a sunk cost. So you have to be careful about that. And most guys and investors like us, sometimes when you're younger, that sunk cost is so important to you because it's part of your ego, plays around with that. So you want to buy more into it. But the key thing is as you get older is you're allowed to make 4 mistakes out of 10. All right? So you have to go back to valuation. As it goes down, the market is telling you, maybe you made a mistake in your valuation. So you go back and reassess. But don't get caught with that sunk cost bias. So if it is, let's say you bought it at 10, it's now $5. Do you think it's worth what you originally thought was worth, let's say 16 or 20 bucks? And if it is worth 8 and it's gone to 5, you can hold on. But you shouldn't get that sunk cost bias into it and just make a rational decision. But you're allowed to make mistakes. That's the key thing. It's like baseball. And if you're batting 300, you're still outstanding. You don't have to be perfect.
So you're managing both equity and bonds.
Yes.
How is different? How does your approach different for bonds and equity?
The bonds are much easier to play than equities, and I'm normally trying to buy them higher in the capital structure. And then you're going to get something like say 100 cents on a dollar somewhere, let's say whatever is the maturity date. But a lot of times the way you play the bonds, I'm playing just like I'm doing with equities. It could be selling at 20 cents on a dollar, but I think under bankruptcy I'm going to get 40 cents. So even at 20 cents is worth it.
So you look at the
I'm
assets.
looking at something called liquidation value.
Yeah.
Yes. And I would also suggest, just as as a practical thing, is that once you have debt more than 50% of equity, play the debt. You'll get as good a return from the debt instruments versus the equity, plus high margin of safety. Yeah.
How do you go about sizing your bets? If you said you would want to be able to put in at least 5%, how do you decide if it's 3% or 10%? Because that surely affects the result you get.
That's a really good question you have, and that is related to people who like to concentrate. Most guys who destroy themselves in the market, they over-concentrate the bets. So you have to be careful. I'm a concentrator, so I'm always conscious if I'm over-concentrating it. I'm something like, I think the odds are 9 to 1 for me to win, and therefore I triple my bets. So you have to be careful with that. Because your conclusion of 9 to 1 odds in your favor, you have to ask, if Buffett is looking at the same situation, is it 9 to 1 odds to him? To him, it may be just 2 to 1 odds. So it would be an error of judgment on your part if you put 9 to 1 odds. So I would tend to more under concentrate once I go over 10%. I'm really careful over 10, because that is where you can get hammered. You can see what sometimes Ackman does the same thing. He over concentrates in certain situations, and when he gets hammered, the consequences are far more severe than what he wants to initially take.
What is your average holding period, and what are the terms?
What is average?
Average holding period. How long do you hold a stock on average?
Your holding period.
Holding period is roughly 4 to 5 years. So once I buy it, I let valuation. I let the market look at the valuation, and let the events play itself out.
And what are the terms of your fund? If I want to invest in your fund, what is the minimum size?
Minimum size, I normally like to go at least 5%.
But for your fund, if I want to invest in your fund?
Oh, it's $5,000, a minimum investment.
So you won't invest in a company unless you can buy 5% of the company?
Yeah, I have to feel comfortable. Can I put 5%? Am I confident? If I'm hesitating and all that, that would mean I'm not comfortable with the company yet. One side is saying I should invest, the other side is saying no. But there's something more about it I should know about this company. So I'm testing my own psychology, kind of playing a game.
Do you tend to favor small caps over large, or you're okay with all? Do you play
I played in all over the small cap, mid cap, big cap, and they all have worked out well. And the most important thing is, be accurate, evaluating a company, and try to buy them cheap, and try to go with good people, good management.
How about liquidity? Like, how do you deal with liquidity? Do you like very liquid stocks, or you can like to buy yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. But that problem came up, illiquid and liquid stock came up in 2008. So when you have kind of a meltdown, not a real meltdown, but even a minor meltdown, the illiquid stocks, you pay a price. So I want to sell, right? Let's say I have a redemption. But to sell the one that you have, even if they are cheap, the other guy on the buy side wants a 20% discount. So you have to be kind of careful. But the buyers dry up in a meltdown. So kind of, if I have a choice, I would go with something more liquid versus illiquid stocks.
Yeah.
How often do you evaluate your holdings? Do you evaluate them every couple of months, or do you just look at it if they're returning good dividends? How often do you evaluate it?
I normally just look at it every 3 months to 6 months. Whenever I get the semi-annual report or quarterly report. But it's I think in this one I would stress not to look at the stock price every day.
How many hours of work do you put in a day?
Most of the time it's just reading.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Like 12 hours, 10 hours?
Roughly you want to read like 200 pages, 300 pages. Once you're done, then you can relax a little bit. That means you're up to date. And investment is also like you're not investing like in a silo, just investing. So you need to know what is going on with the world. So you want to be up on politics, economics, a few other subjects. So it's kind of related. So the world is related.
Yeah.
And so if you read something on Britain, Brexit, it affects US. And you cannot say don't read something in Europe only because you're investing in Canada. So everything is kind of related.
So what's kind of your day? Like you go to work like 8 o'clock in the morning. What do you do? Like you start reading annual reports or?
Yeah, no, I just read. And now the way I'm reading now is way different from 10 years ago. So 10 years ago would be like you get the hard copy of Wall Street Journal and all these things. But I find nowadays like 70-80% I just do it on the internet. A lot of news you're getting is like if you subscribe to Bloomberg or to Capital IQ, you already have all the news items for the companies. So nowadays I read, if I'm reading hard copy, it's more like editorial opinions and things like that. But in 10 years ago, it was different. All the company news is coming like hard copy.
So you prefer Bloomberg from Capital IQ or?
I've been using Capital IQ simply because I'm kind of a cheapskate. I was getting
Guys, question over there.
Yeah.
So from the news, what you're reading, how much of influence that can have on your decision to buy something?
The news is just like a general knowledge, so you need to fill up, all right? And then you're seeing, what's happening in the world, and whether this industry is going to get impacted in the future. But the key thing is you look at company by company then. And anything that's building like a bubble and so on, I would avoid.
So just one more question. How would you judge a management? Because probably they are telling you what you want to hear. So how do they,
yes.
Like, do you talk to management?
No, yeah, but what I do is I don't look at 1 year results, I'm looking at over a 10-year period. So over a 10-year period, you can see what the company has done. You look at the capital expenditures, how they've expensed it. They're abusing the stock options. You look at management pay and how much companies own. And when the companies are cheap, are they buying back shares or are they paying dividends? And so in that way, you get a good sense of this management is shareholder oriented or not.
But you don't talk to them. Do you talk to them?
I do meet them, but I don't. I do talk to them, but I only do it after I know the company well enough. Now, at the highest level, all these CEOs are great marketers. So you have to be careful. They can sell you anything. And so to negate that influence, you should know the company first before you talk to them.
I'm interested in your transition from your prior career into funds management. What did you have to do to make that transition and be so successful thereafter?
Well, I think part of the reason why I was able to do it is that I found something called your calling. This is my life. This is my destiny. And then you put all your energy into it. And then so you need to have the right philosophy, like right investment philosophy, and the right way to execute it. And so value investing is so easy. I can execute it 4 or 5 different ways. I can buy discounted work, that has worked. Net working capital, that has worked. Good earning power has worked. I bought them on liquidation value, that has worked. So you just find a field, and then you have to be passionate about it. And then there's no one that can stop you except yourself.
Once you made that transition into investing, what was maybe one of the biggest surprises or unexpected things that you ran into?
There was some difficulty in terms of getting your registration as a portfolio manager and all that. But once you overcome that, it was easy. But in some ways, you may say it is hard because you cannot raise money, right? And so I was patient. I had 20 years to show that I'm good at investments, that I could manage money. And eventually the money came. So from 1981, I started like with 51,000, right? So it went to 2002. After 20 years, I had only $5 million. But then newspaper articles started writing about me, about my results. And then from 2002 to 2006, it went from $5 million to $1 billion with no marketing. But the thing is staying power. And then you work hard, like at your age, save as much money as you want, as much money as you can. Save it because there is some tough period. And unfortunately, in investments, you have to let time go by. You have to show results, right? You have to let 5 years go by. You cannot compress that 5 years into 1 year. So you cannot be like anxious. So let the years go by, show how good you are, and people will recognize you. And that is what happened to me. But I had staying power. I didn't fret when no money was coming in.
when you're looking for ideas, do you spend time, whether it's using some of the websites out there or reading like the 13F statements from other value investors or other large investors to understand what trades they're making to give you ideas?
See, at your age when I was starting, right? So 1981, 82, we had something called Oppenheimer, right? A little bit hard, it was a hard copy. So every month they would do. There were no computers. So a month of February they'll do discounted book value. So they'll give us 100 stocks. Next month it will be like P ratio of less than 10. Next month would be like net working capital. So they had 10 different ratios. So I would do the same thing now because now computers are, and all these information so easily available. So every month do a screen and pick 10 of those, 10 out of 100. And then you have to do something that a lot of people don't do. They think they're so great. I would pick 10 of them right there and then and say these 10 are the best stocks. And then evaluate after 2 years. And then check how good you are.
So I'm curious how you're working to continually improve your process, both in a general process way and also how you then document the decisions you take to over time go back and improve the process based on the outcome.
Yes, yeah, you have to be really be honest about your mistakes. I've got some excellent results over that period, and that came in with a lot of mistakes in between. So the good ideas overcame the bad ones, and it overcame enough that my results beat the market. So you always have to be conscious. It's kind of a balance here. Using one is confidence in your conviction, confidence in your analysis. The other side, you have to balance it out that you can make mistakes. There's potential for mistakes, potential for oversight. So it's a kind of a fine balance.
But are you working with checklists or anything like that?
Oh yes, yeah. Even now, for example, I'm kind of a cheapskate when I'm looking at stocks. I tend to go into troubled companies, and that is sometimes too much of a mistake when I concentrate on that. Most of the money I made is on on good companies, but I sometimes have a bias, going into troubled companies. I made good money on it, but I also make more mistakes. So you always have to be conscious about your tendencies. Like some people only buy good companies and buy 30 times earnings, but then they're overcompensating by paying up, and they just want to go into good companies. So you have to be conscious. Your bias could be different from mine, and you may be conscious of something else. So in my case, I'm conscious about not to go all the time looking into all these trouble companies.
Does your strategy change during rich markets?
I tend to go more into cash. But in companies in periods like right now when it's kind of not cheap, I tend to make more mistakes. Staying in cash is hard. Even though I'm much better than most portfolio managers, but staying in cash 30% cash is hard. In my Asia fund right now, I have 70% cash. I've been there 2 years, and that has been my best funds.
In instances where you make mistakes, how long has it taken you to actually recognize that and act on it?
So when I make a mistake, it normally takes 2 years for the event to come through. Yeah, and then to recognize I made a mistake. Yeah. And then there's a period, 6 months, where you're a little bit in denial. Things will get better. Yeah.
So what if you're holding onto a good company and then if there's a bubble in that industry, what do you do?
No, you have to get out. Yeah. If it is a bubble, you have to get out. There's always a time. You may not get in now, but 5 years down the road, 2 years down the road, you will get a chance to get in when the bubble bursts and you go in. That's the best time to buy. Yeah.
Do you have any clauses set in place to ensure that clients don't all pull out when times get rough?
No, I have 30% cash. So when they pull out, if I cannot persuade them, I just ask them to pull out.
So they can pull out whenever they want?
They can pull out anytime.
You think value investors are born or made?
I would say most probably there's a predisposition to value investing. You're born with certain genetic makeup. You're more predisposed, just like athletes. You can see hand-eye coordination, they're somewhat predisposed. But then you have to hone that skill.
So how many, like, what percentage of the people you think can be good value investors?
Good value investors, I think somewhere around 10%.
Okay, so out of 35 plus here, guys, only 3 of you.
Do you mind sharing your 5 or 6 screen thesis you do monthly basis?
Yeah, so you do the basic one, discount book. You do your net. But when you do discount book, make sure you know the financial leverage. Like the debt is not 20%, not more than 20% of equity, and make sure you know that they don't have too much like leases, uncapitalized leases, and all that stuff. So take some precaution and do the same thing with all these nets, all these crappy companies. Nets, you have to make sure the financial leverage is not high. And then you go with the low PE ratios, low price to free cash flow ratio. Then you look for companies going to a turnaround where they may have 4 subsidiaries. One is kind of a benign tumor, they cut it out and they're coming out of it.
What's your cutoff multiple for PE or free cash flow?
You're looking for something like less than 7. Yeah, and when you're looking for PE ratio for good quality company, you're making sure that 5 years down the road that this business is not eroding the business that they're in. So you take a few precautions with that.
I've worked with the Hong Kong market, and what I've typically found is that if the stock is liquid, it's typically fully valued or overvalued. But the undervalued ones are very illiquid. So how would you deal with that?
Go with undervaluation. But you have to be careful sometimes with discounted book in Hong Kong or Korean market. Now in Korean market, there's a rule where if they have a real estate, they're allowed to revalue it every year. So if you're in the United States, if you bought something at 100, and they would, let's say some years they would take that amortization. So your 100 may go down to 10. But in Korea, that $100 can keep going up to 200, 300, 400. So that discounted book is kind of, you have to be careful.
You said on your leverage, 20% debt to equity. Did you mean 20% debt to total capitalization, or do you actually just look D2?
You can take it to total capitalization. The reason for being careful when you're doing a discounted book is a lot of these companies are crappy companies. And that's the reason for being careful with the financial leverage.
How do you protect yourself from your own personal biases? So, for example, having some sort of consultation with certain people within the firm, or how do you guide these?
You can do something really severe, something like go that route, and just rebate the management fees. That punishes you, and there's no kind of a punishment bias. So I've done that in the past. So whenever I've rebated the fees or waived the fees, I tend to do really well the next 3 years. There's a correlation. Yep.
Has your approach to finding the stocks changed? Has that changed over the years?
So it has changed, and I tend to look at higher quality companies. But there are factors involved when looking at higher quality companies. Is that when I came up in 1981, the stock market, the average PE ratio was 6. So I was buying a lot of great companies at 4 or 5 times earnings. And then what happens is, 5 years down the road, like 1986 and 1988, all these companies disappeared. The great ones started trading at 15 times earnings, and then you're getting all the crappy ones, around 4 or 5 times earnings. But if I have a bias that is more to emphasize on the higher quality companies, if you can buy them below, let's say, 10 times earnings.
Do you do any hedging to protect your downside, or is it just your cash position that protects your downside?
The only hedging I've done is foreign currencies, on currencies, but not on stocks.
What is
What?
Oh, you can go.
What about your team? Do you have a team? How does it work?
The team, I just look at the parents' fee. On investment decisions.
Have you ever shorted a stock?
No, I've not shorted a stock. That's a much more difficult game. Stocks can go up, let's say it's at 100, it can always go up to 500. And then for 100, you're only gaining from 100 to 0. And plus, you need to buy time. Management can play games. Play games in the sense that you think it should go bankrupt next day, but they can, the levers that they have, they can pull it, and it may not go bankrupt for another 3-4 years. So your conclusion could be right, but you may have to wait like 4 years. In the meantime, when you're shorting, it costs a lot of money.
Can you discuss your succession planning process?
At this time, it will go to the board, and then they will see who to appoint.
No, for you, I guess. Is it for him or?
No, for you.
Yeah.
Your company.
So you have a plan for retirement?
At this time, no, I'm fairly young.
You don't plan to die, I guess.
No.
No, but so Francis has been working on his own, right, by himself. And then this year I found out he had one of my students there. And so now
You're talking about the investment side, right?
No, talking about your plan, I guess.
Yeah, on my investment side, yes.
Yeah, for your plan for passing the torch, I guess, to the next generation, I guess.
Yeah.
Now you have a daughter, but your daughter is not really involved in the.
She's trying to learn about it at this time. Yeah.
You mentioned you don't invest in technologies. Have you invested in commodity companies?
Commodities, again, I kind of have been careful, simply because if you want to go into commodities, sometimes the straighter route, the faster route, and the cleaner route, they just buy that price. Let's say you want to go into copper company, just buy copper. It's much more cleaner. You can always buy futures or whatever options on that. It's cleaner way to play. If you think the price of copper is going to go up, because if you're buying, let's say if you're buying a copper company, the valuation of that company depends on the price of copper or any other metal.
You mentioned you hold cash, quite a lot of cash sometimes. Now it's a default position, you know this is going to go against you because markets on average would rise. Why would you still hold cash, up to like 70-80% in a place like Asia?
Asia, there's a bit of a concern with what's happening in China, what's happening in Japan, and so the pros and cons is if you go into a bubble, you could lose 40% or 50% of your unit value. Making it back up is much harder. So if you lose 50%, you need to gain 100%, right? So the math equation goes the other way. And then I cannot find companies that I am comfortable with. You also have another scenario with China, also with India and a few other emerging countries, is the rule of law is not there, the transparency is not there. And if they want to take advantage of you, there's no recourse. You cannot go, like we here in North America, we know how to go to courts, how to address grievances and all that. You don't have that. So that's the reason why if you go to China, there's a word called Shanghai. You have been taken advantage of.
Do you have any thoughts or comments on Prem Watts' kind of bearish stance in his portfolio right now with all the hedging that he's got in place?
He has a different mandate. He's running an insurance company, and there's a leverage factor involved, so he has to be extremely careful. And whatever he's doing so far, last 8 years, he's been right on the hedging, on the deflation side. But it's kind of a portfolio trade. He's doing it. So one thing in insurance is concerns something 1 in 100 year occurrence. So he's ready for that. Most companies are not ready for 1 in a 5-year occurrence. They say it will happen, let's say 1 in 20 years. But a lot of times, if you notice, all the insurance news you're reading, it's happening once, 1 out of every 3 or 4 years, not 1 out of 20 years. So he has a different mandate, and he's hedging it, and he's doing it the right way.
Would you say your portfolios have generally been defensive during market downturns, and what are the key things in the process that you think would have resulted in that?
So I would go cash if I think the market is high. And then I would go something with companies that are, let's say, cheaper in terms of PE ratios. So anything kind of coming to 12 or 14 times earnings, I may try and reduce the position.
Which
for you the best or the most important books or readings that had more influence in your focus of investing?
In general, the Intelligent Investor was important to me in 1979. For me, saying, you know, you have to buy bargains. And I found this is something I've been doing all my life. I've been shopping. And when you're shopping, like I was brought up in India. And when you're shopping, it's not like Walmart, you just buy and you know, you pay the price. In India, you haggle, right? And when you haggle, you know, you need to know, you know, the product, the quality, you need to know the price. And you go from vendor to vendor looking for the best prices, right? So here I read Benjamin Graham and suddenly I made that connection, you know. I'm just haggling like in India, except it's on the stock market. But I don't know. So then it became easy, so I just transferred that skill, or not skill, or the mental makeup, you know, and transferred it to the stock market. So it became easy. The psychological part, I was able to master it, because I've been doing it since I was a kid.
So you think that this is the key that makes the difference between the 10% that you told would be the best one?
Yeah. And I think since you're taking value class here, most of you are more predisposed to value investing. Like when you all shop, like anywhere, clothes or whatever, you buy them on sale. Like how many of you do that? So that means you're already predisposed towards value investing. And transfer that mental makeup to the stock market, and then then you become a great value investor.
What's the maximum position you can take for one name, one company?
10%. I've taken it up to 15 if I'm strong conviction, but I'm really careful. I could make mistakes. Yeah.
How detailed are your valuation models? Are they very detailed, or are they just detailed enough to get the job done? How do you kind of do that?
When I was younger, it was more detailed, but then I worked at Fairfax like 20 years, and then I have an operational background, and so I look at things a lot more differently. So I do it much more quicker now. I also understand, you know, like what management is doing now to produce this number. So I have in my head, you know, these are the decisions they're making, these are the meetings they're going through. So I have a better understanding of it. But when you're younger, you have to do more detail. So you have to do like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and go through your checklist.
Do you do DCF, or do you not like DCFs?
Discounted cash flow is kind of tricky because you're putting numbers 10 years down the road and you're discounting it by a certain number, and mentally you can play with those numbers. Okay, maybe I'll take it this side.
Do you consider this new high PE environment the new normal, or do you figure everything will go back, revert to the mean eventually?
It will revert back to the mean. The new normal is always a word for new dangers.
Just taking off on that question, then, what would be the impact of the baby boomer generation that have a lot of wealth, that we talked about earlier in the course?
Yes.
Yeah, so just I'm wondering what the impact would be in terms of that wealth going into the market and needing places to put it when we talk about like PE, for example.
Well, yes. It's kind of a difficult question. So let's look at just going from your question, right? You can say in one way interest rate is so low, right? And if it stays at this low level for the next 20 years, the stock market is not expensive because you are going to use your discounted cash flow at 1 or 2%, so you can even pay like 50 times earnings. It's still cheap. But is it really going to stay that low at 1% over the next 20 years with all the banks, all the Federal Reserve Board, everyone, central banks, all printing money like crazy? So eventually it's going to catch up, and at least it may not be this year, but sometime next 20 years, that interest rate got to rise. And therefore your discount model, your discount rate that you're going to take is going to be different, and therefore your valuation is going to go down, even though your earnings may go up. So those are the factors you have to play with.
It's I think, I mean, you can make a very good story actually that rates, because of demographics I guess, rates may start to go up sooner or later. And the reason is that, remember I showed you this picture with the mutual fund growth because of the baby boomers? Once they start retiring, they don't produce any new money, just eating up what they had. So the supply of capital will be going down. Like I think, well, baby boomers start to retire, I think about now, I think for the next 5 years, you may start see some movement in interest rates because these guys are going to be spending the money they made. There's no more new supply coming to the market because of these guys. So you can make a good story that the rates are going to go up, but like Francis said, you know, if rates keep going down and they grow up and the rate growth is not really going up a lot, then it's going to be a bloodbath.
The St. Louis Fed has an interesting report to that effect over the next 5 years, how they think the flow of capital will change and how the demographics will play out in the market. I think it was published a year ago.
It's 30,000 a day, I believe, no retirement.
30,000 a day. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, do you have like a network of value investors that you meet or exchange ideas with, or do you create all your ideas yourself?
I tend to read, and then sometimes guys I respect, I would say, but this is what I'm looking at, and you think I'm an idiot looking at this company. So, and so you're looking for feedback, and looking for something, you know, that they can, you know, say something against. And the other tool that I've used is that if I'm interested in this stock and I'm really keen on it, I'm looking for all the guys who are shorting the stock and all the negative stuff to make sure, you know, that there's your checks and balances are there. So when I was working at Fairfax, so let's say we like this company, but we will always appoint a senior guy to make a counter proposal, make him study it and give me all the negatives. So we had a little bit of that checks and balances also in Fairfax. So you like something, get someone who's also kind of an expert in that area, someone senior, not kind of junior that you talk down. Like that guy is intimidated by you, but someone really senior and he bashes your thesis. So that's really important.
So we're running out of time, so just the last question, I guess. What's the most important thing that you learned in investing for the last 30 years?
Investing is a combination of traits. You need integrity towards yourself. You also need you know, courage of your work, courage of your courage of your conviction. And then you need to be conscious, you know, you can go wrong. And so it's a combination of traits. And if you have it, but then, you know, you can do anything in the world. But be confident in yourself. You can see how I've done it, you know, I just went my way.